Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to do another series on health gadgets, those things that can save you time and effort. And my health gadget today is going to be the Instapot, one of my favorites. I'm sure most of you out there already have one. I just got introduced to them last year, so I've been pretty excited about the amount of time and effort it's been able to save me. Now, before we go any further, some of you might recognize the sweatshirt. Yep, it's the sweatshirt that I wrote about, the sweatshirt in tatters. And for those of you who don't know about this sweatshirt, hop over to my LinkedIn profile and look at my articles for the sweatshirt in tatters. That's this sweatshirt. And so for all of you who know about this sweatshirt, you finally get to see it. Definitely a sweatshirt in tatters. Okay, so let's get started. So the Instapot, completely like that as a time saver and a money saver, and just for being super effective and flexible to work with. So to help show you what I mean, I'm going to cook two things that I love that I would rarely cook without the Instapot. And the first one's going to be Adobo Chicken. Many of you know about Adobo Chicken. Now, I grew up with traditional grandparents, and when they made Adobo Chicken, it would take all day. It was an 8-hour affair. So, you know, I don't have that kind of time. I don't know anybody else who has that kind of time. So if you have that kind of time, more power to you. You don't have to use the Instapot to do it. But I found out by accident that I can actually use the Instapot to make adobo chicken. And then I'm going to marry it with the Saffron Jasmine rice. So let's get started and just see how easy it is to cook with adobo chicken. And while we go through this, I'm going to share a lot of why I like this recipe and why I like it right now. Okay, let's go. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about adobo chicken. It's pretty basic. It has some really simple ingredients in it. And probably the first ingredient and probably the most important ingredient is going to be vinegar. And for a lot of adobo chicken, they like white vinegar, but this is my absolute favorite vinegar. And I don't really know how to pronounce that, but the label looks the same. Any Asian food store you go into, just look for this vinegar. It's a black vinegar, and it's a really hearty vinegar. It's a really rich, heavy vinegar. And so the key thing about this vinegar, as opposed to white vinegar, is in Chinese medicine, it's going to be astringent, and it's also going to be tonifying, and it's going to be tonifying to the kidneys and liver, whereas vinegar is usually just really good for the liver. This one, being a black vinegar, is going to be really tonifying for both the kidneys and liver. So keep that label in mind. Try it out. It's just a great vinegar. So the second ingredient that I got was chicken thighs. And I don't know if you guys noticed, I wanted to get organic, but this was the best I could do today because my organic food store is closed. But have you guys noticed when you buy chicken thighs today, you put them in a pan, a pot, or on the grill, and what starts out as, you know, a normal sized chicken thigh, by the time you're done cooking it, it's like half the size, and there's a huge pool of water around it. And for me, I'm like, wow, okay, that has to be from the chicken bath. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think chicken baths are really that healthy. And granted, they probably don't have bacteria in them, but the only reason why they wouldn't would be because, you know, there's bleach in there. So I'm going to try these thighs. We'll see how they cook up. I really would have preferred them to be organic, so I still think I'm going to get a big water dump out of it, but, you know, live and learn. The one thing about chicken is it's a bland food, so it's really good for the spleen. So now we've got something that tonifies the liver and the kidneys. We have something that tonifies the spleen. And then you have some spices, and I'm actually going to try sage. So I grow some spices at home, and you can see the sage is huge. My sage plant is crazy. It's out of control. So I'm going to put sage in. We have garlic that's pungent. It's really lifting. It's just going to be a little bit of a spice. Now, we also have an oil that we can use in it, and I have a tendency to mix oils simply because of the different flavors that they have in them. And so an avocado comes off nutty. The olive oil has a tendency to be a bit sharp and mild, and then the sesame always has that really kind of nutty, earthy flavor to it that really kind of, you use just a little bit and it can be just a really great additive. Now I also have onions, root vegetables, so very good at tonifying the earth. They're also pungent, so they help lift the chi a little bit. Tamari, and then sugar. And you know, the flavor of sweet really is supposed to support the spleen, but let's be real, when we do sugar, that doesn't support the spleen at all. That's just for our own personal enjoyment. We're going to use that to mellow out the sharpness in the vinegar. Now, I'm the kind of chef that just cooks by just throwing things in and tasting it. And so that's how I'm going to put together the marinade. And so my thoughts is if you know how to do a Japanese marinade, you're going to be able to do the adobo marinade just fine. The one thing you're going to want to avoid is some of those bright things that they use in a Japanese marinade, which makes the marinade too uplifting, like limes. And why that is adobo is a very, very earthy, tonifying meal. And when you start adding in that much lift, you change the overall essence of the meal. So today we're going to stick with the traditional concept of adobo. We're going to keep it a very, very earthy, tonifying meal from a Chinese medical perspective. Okay, so let me wash up the chicken. I'm going to open up the Instapot and I'm going to start mixing the ingredients. Okay, so like I said, I kind of go by taste. And the other thing is, being that we're using a pressure cooker, and I'm going to use the Instapot in a pressure cooker mode. So a pressure cooker, you really don't need to cover your foods with the liquid that you're using. So I'm going to start out with the vinegar. And I thought I was going to, it looks like I'm going to use probably a little over a half cup in vinegar. And then, you know, we were talking about 3 different oils, and I was thinking about it. I'm going to stick with the olive oil because it's a lighter oil. I was thinking about the avocado oil, but you know, the nutty taste and then marrying it with the sesame, that might just get to be a little bit too much. So we're going to use olive oil, and we just need a little bit. And then I'm just going to add in a pinch of sesame oil with that. And then I'm going to add in some tamari. And that's probably a little less than a 1/4 cup. Now, the next thing that we have to do is add in some sugar. And this, well, let me put in the garlic first. Okay, so let me add in the garlic first. This clove's kind of big. I like garlic, so yay for me. Probably don't want to get too much more because, you know, if it marinates or if it sits overnight, it's going to start getting really garlicky. And that's probably going to start getting really garlicky as it sits, but it's a good start. Okay, so we've got like the base ingredients that we need for the adobo marinade. The next thing that I'm going to add in is going to be the sugar, and that's going to take the bite out of the vinegar. Surprisingly, you need a lot of sugar. But sugar is also good for breaking down proteins, so we'll see how that goes. Let me taste that. Let's see what we've got. I don't think I have enough sugar in here. No, I do. Well, maybe just a little bit more. Okay, so we've got the main ingredients in here. Yum. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is just add in the chicken. And I didn't salt this or anything, you know, I just washed it off. I was even too lazy to pat it dry, so I just throw it in there. And the last thing I'm going to do is add in the sage and the onions. Okay, so there you have all the ingredients. I left the sage as leaves. I don't know if any of you guys have eaten sage before, but it's a really, really good cook. So I left it as big leaves so that you could just eat the leaf. Now I did use both those onions. So they were 2 medium-sized onions, and they're definitely last season's onions because my eyes started watering when I was cutting them. But they're sweet onions, so that would make them a little bit more tonifying or a little less pungent than usual than your average onion. So onions have a tendency to move chi, and really I want this dish to be super tonifying for the liver, the spleen, and the kidneys. And by flipping to the sweet onions instead of using the traditional onions, that makes it just a little bit more tonifying, the onions a little bit more tonifying and less chi moving. And so here you have it. So now let me show you the next part, which is why I just love this Instapot. Okay, so let me turn on the Instapot. I'm going to put the cover on, and you just turn it, it locks up, so you just turn it to close. Now I am going to move this up to pressure cook because I'm going to pressure cook this, and then click on, you see the timer's blinking, and I'm going to, that's minutes, so that's 10, 11, 12 minutes, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 minutes. I'm going to hit that, and then I'm going to hit start. And this is going to preheat. I can walk away, and it's going to cook in 20 minutes, which is a whole lot less time than 8 hours. So we'll come back in 20 minutes, pull it out of the pressure cooker, and then I'm going to show you how I make my Saffron Jasmine rice. Okay, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so my chicken's finished cooking, and it goes into a warm cycle, so it'll keep it warm for you. That's pretty awesome. I'm going to open it up, and it looks like the pressure's out, so let's see what we got. What does it look like? There it is. We did get quite a bit of water still, so yeah, next time I want organic chicken. But let me move this out of the pot because the next thing I'm going to show you is my super secret Saffron Jasmine rice recipe, which I haven't shared with anybody. So you're going to be the first. Don't tell anybody. But this rice is just awesome. It tastes great. Okay, let's go. I cleaned out the adobo chicken, and you don't really have to clean out the Instapot, but I'm going to make my super secret saffron jasmine rice. And so I hope you like this. This I haven't shared with anybody. It's just my little secret mix here. Okay, so I'm going to start out with 2 cups of jasmine rice, and I'm going to add in 2 1/4 cups of water. And it's usually 1 to 1, but I actually do it a little bit more with the water because I like my rice being a little bit moist, like a sushi rice. And then the next thing I'm going to add in is some cumin. And again, you know, I don't really measure anything. I just kind of look and see what I like. And then what I'm going to do is here I'm actually going to use some avocado oil because jasmine's such a nice mild rice that you can use something nutty and heavy and rich like avocado oil with it, and it mixes really well. So let's see here. Then what I add in, instead of salt, I use chicken flavored bouillon with it. So I just add in some bouillon and to add in the salt for the rice. And then lastly, I'm going to add in the saffron. And saffron just amazes me. You need almost no saffron to for it to be super, super tasty. So saffron is just a really interesting herb. I can't believe how incredibly pungent it is for such a small amount of spice. So I kind of crumble it up when I put it in there. And then I'm going to mix this around too, just to make sure. And that's quite a bit of saffron from a saffron perspective. So let me mix this up. I'm going to cover up the Instapot, going to close it. So I'm going to put the lid on, twist it to close. And now let me show you why I love the Instapot with rice. Okay, here's why I like the Instapot so much. You probably have been using a rice cooker, and I don't know about you, but every rice cooker that I've used now, it really doesn't work. It goes forever and it doesn't cook the rice, so I feel like I've wasted a lot of money on crappy rice cookers, and so I don't buy them anymore. But I was reading on this Instapot, and they said that the Instapot can cook rice in 4 minutes. So I'm going to select the pressure cook again, and now we're in the timer, and I'm going to drop this down to 4 minutes, and I'm just going to press start, and it's going to preheat, take off for 4 minutes, and my saffron rice is going to be done. Okay, let's see how that goes. Okay, so the rice is done. That had a little bit of pressure left in it. It's back in its warming mode. I'm going to open this up because now we're just going to put everything together and make the dish presentable for dinner. Not that you have to do this next part, but I'm going to do it anyways, okay? Okay, I am going to start by putting some rice around the plate. And you can see, because it's Jasmine saffron rice, you can actually see that it has that little bit of a yellow look to it. Which is what makes it so tasty. I put some sage right in the middle there, just because, so I knew where my center point was. Now, the next thing I want to do is just layer some of the onions and sage around. Probably should have taken this off separately so I could easily get to it, but you know. Now the onions and the sage, I didn't really use them for onions and sage. I really used them just to give the dish a flavor, some different flavor textures. Sage is another really earthy herb, so it moves. It's all moving at the same in the same philosophy as the whole dish, where I wanted something that was, you know, very tonifying, very earthy, very nurturing. And we're almost at the end of spring right now in the Pacific Northwest. Usually you want your dishes to start getting a little bit lighter and a lot more supportive of the liver during this season. So the vinegar in this dish is a huge benefit for the spring season. Now this dish, it's light, but it's still a little bit strong because it's so heavy on earth. Yet we're in the middle of rain right now, so it's kind of cold here, and something that's a little bit heavier is not such a bad thing. So this dish works right now really well, just with our weather and the temperature outside. Okay, so that is the start of it. I'm going to just add one more thing to finish it off. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to add is, you know, I have a small herb garden, and one of the things I have is chives. So just to add a little bit of color, I'm going to put some chives on here. And chives, pungent, lifting, moves the chi, and yet there's just so few here. You know, there's such a small little plant. Adding that to the dish really doesn't change its flavor, direction, or what I wanted the dish to accomplish. So here you have a dish. Rice is very tonifying for the spleen. So here you have a dish that is very tonifying and supportive of the liver, kidney, and the spleen. There is just a hint in here of chi lifting and moving, and really just such a small hint that it just really supports the concept of tonifying. And you also got to see how to do adobo in an Instapot. How incredibly flexible is that? And I also gave you my favorite super secret Saffron Jasmine rice recipe. So there you have it. You have an adobo Saffron Jasmine rice meal for dinner. And realistically, 20 minutes to cook the chicken, 4 minutes for the rice, put it all together, and you're set to go. Okay, hey, thanks for watching me and the Instapot. Now you see why I love that Instapot and why I use it so much. You know, the last thing that I would suggest about the Instapots is that you season it after you use it. So after I get this washed up, I'm actually going to take a little bit of olive oil and put it on the inside and wipe it around, and then put the Instapot away. And what that does is it seasons it. It keeps its cooking surface really easy to use. Things don't stick to it. They wash up. You don't have to use scouring pads. The one thing that I have to say about this Instapot is they used really, really good steel. It's manufactured, I think, in Canada, and so if you just do a little bit extra, like adding in a seasoning this after each use for a few months, you're going to have a crazy strong Instapot that all you have to do to wash is rinse it out. So thanks for watching. If you like this, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, click on the notifications, put in the comments what you liked about this, and let me know, and I'll keep on putting these out. Okay, hey, thanks a lot.